All right, everybody, welcome. I'd like to call the citizens. Start with Eugene, if you can do the roll call and determination before.
Right. Tamara Banks. Jason Broughton.
Present.
Ruby Bravo. Dante Braden.
Here.
Joe Brito. Daniel Byler. Michael Cattell. Justin Chenault. Rupert Farley.
Here.
David Faust. Denise Flatley. Here. Larry Gross. Rebecca Heron. Here. Brian Herbert.
Here.
Yolanda Hipsky. Michael Floyd. Cassandra Jagru. David McLaughlin.
Here.
Jimmy Morris.
Here.
Aria Nair. Ken Pogue. James Powell. Elodie Shojinaga.
Here.
Rodney Thomas. Alan Watkins.
Here.
Clinton Wells.
Present.
Oh. Thank you. Timothy Welsh.
Here.
And Kevin Wilkinson. All right, Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. First of all, welcome, Elodie, for joining us. It's nice to have two people from King George now. Okay, going on to number 3 regarding the agenda for tonight's meeting. We have potentially a couple of modifications.
Right. Yes, it's been requested. We're adding presentations to Al Watkins 7A and 7B, as well as we have a written item from VDOT, just responses to our June 10th meeting regarding the updates and questions asked during VDOT report. And we'll bring those up so you all can read it online.
Okay. Okay, now number 4, approval of June 10th meeting minutes.
What we need action on the approval of the agenda as modified.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is Rupert. Move to do the agenda as John suggested.
This is Jason and I second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that is approved. Okay, now I can go on to number 4. The approval of the June 10th meeting.
This is Rupert again. I move for approval of the minutes, June 17th, June 10th.
I'll say.
Second from Tim Welsh. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And
McLaughlin abstains, he wasn't present.
Abstains.
okay, thank you. All right, for number 5, public comment. Do we have anyone present who'd like to make public comment? Seeing no one, do we have any correspondence?
Yes, we received from the Disability Resource Center. This is comments that we have received from the Disability Resource Center on our Complete Streets plan, which is currently out for public comment. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on the draft FAMPO Complete Streets plan. The comments from the Disability Resource Center and the consumers we serve are intended to highlight the accessibility experienced by people with disabilities and identify opportunities to improve accessibility and access for everyone. There is a significant amount of valuable information included in the Complete Streets document. After reviewing the document, we are concerned that the level of detail in the Complete Streets plan may be overwhelming for some individuals. In future documents, it would be helpful if FAMPO could provide a 2-page executive summary in addition to the full document. A summary would allow readers to quickly understand the key points and major recommendations before reviewing the more detailed information. 5. Regional plans. The tables on pages 10 to 16 have a status column in which several projects are identified as conceptual. It would be helpful for FAMPO to provide a clear definition of what conceptual means within the project development process, including what stage a project is in and, if applicable, what the anticipated timeline is for moving forward implementation. Additionally, some of the project locations may be difficult for readers to understand unless they are already familiar with the area. Providing additional context, such as a brief description, nearby landmarks could make the information more accessible to the public. Disability Resource Center consumer feedback. In addition to these observations, we are including comments and feedback received directly from our consumers. Their perspectives help provide valuable insight into how the information in the Complete Streets document is understood by members of the public and may help identify areas where additional clarification or context would be beneficial. Bus stops. I know of 3 stops that are currently inaccessible. Stop 11, Townsend Square. The ramp has to drop into the intersection. I reported this to VDOT. They will fix it when they install the new sidewalk. Stop 169, Confederate Bridge. The ramp has to drop into the intersection. Stop 397, Lawson Lane. The ramp might be able to bridge the gap, but the lifts would have to land in the intersection. I'd be careful trying to wrestle somebody at this stop for fear of them getting stuck in what amounts to a well, even to try to see if the ramp can bridge. Intersection does fine. To whom it may concern. Corner of Emancipation Highway and Snowden Street has no curb cut. Corner of Fall Hill and Progress Street by the PNC Bank has a curb cut that leads directly into the street. This is one of the most dangerous curb cuts in Fredericksburg. Imagine you're blind. I'm not blind, but I can't safely use this with my wheelchair/medical scooter and my service dog on my right side. On top of that, it's so dirty that grass is growing on it. Wheelchair users have to drive through that. We can't step over it. But also imagine how confusing this is for a blind person. They hear the cars, feel the curb cut, but then encounter dirt and grass. Is this a curb cut? Is it safe to use? Then the other side has 5 inches of water. No disability aid can safely get through this. And again, the able-bodied people just cross the street further down, but we can't. I also can't risk killing the battery on my scooter/electric wheelchair, so I have to turn around even if I need to go in this direction. And our 3 minutes is up.
Okay. If that's all of the correspondence, then we'll move on to number 6, the VDOT and transit border problem. If anyone has any things they would like to bring up, please do so. Glad everyone's getting around town just fine.
Okay, well, I do have the response from our last meeting, the questions over the traffic signal and spots of the high school. Right now it's an unsignalized entrance. A light has been previously discussed. However, it does not meet current warrants for a traffic light. Monitoring and enforcement by county officers as an alternative to the signal is recommended at this location. Guardrail repair at Lansdowne Road and Parkwood subdivision. Prior to any guardrail work, slope repairs will need to be performed. Hydraulics and materials are actively surveying. There's no exact timeline at this time, but residency is monitoring closely and working to repair as soon as possible. The Chamawaspik Bridge replacement. The bridge replacement was scoped in 2019 with the paved shoulders as a selected bicycle accommodation. No additional pedestrian accommodation is proposed with this project. So those were the responses, and I can make these available to CTAC members. It just arrived a little late to make it onto the agenda as a link. Yes.
Yeah, so I had a question for VDOT. So I asked about Spotsylvania High School, and in a previous meeting, I asked about, sorry, trying to throw me off. Also, Cortland High School. So I had a few school board members reach out to me about those. And then also, I talked to the constituents directly who reached out to those school board members, chat about it. And I'm wondering where the disconnect is between, well, these are what school board members are saying that they feel is needed. And then here's VDOT saying, we don't think it's needed. And there's a bit of a juxtaposition there. And I'm not going to pretend to know exactly why that is, but I do find it a little frustrating. Because when I asked about the other school in question, VDOT's suggestion was that the schools pay for like the sheriff's office to direct traffic out there. And I mean, with all due respect to VDOT, the school's job is to educate our children, not to direct traffic. So I frankly found the suggestion, undesired. And I would appreciate, and I don't know if it's something VDOT does or if I have to request it of the chair and staff here, but if we could have a presentation on, what does go into the decision making on whether or not we install lights at these schools. Because frankly, I think one accident would be one too many, and I've seen firsthand how dangerous those places can get. And I understand anecdotal evidence is one thing, and it's not necessarily something that should necessarily be relied on for policy decision making. I recognize that. But at some point, when enough people have enough anecdotal evidence and they're all coming to me, or they're coming to school board representatives who are elected to represent that issue, and they're all reporting that issue, I start to believe it's an issue that maybe deserves a bit more attention than I think it's really getting, or that I have the impression it's getting from VDOT. But I do want to add the additional clarifying statement that, I could be mistaken here. I'm only 21. I'm young and learning, as I say. So, I have an open mind about it, but I'm not like dead set one way or the other. But it is something I wanted to bring to VDOT and even everyone's attention here, because I do hear about it quite a bit. So that's all my piece on the matter.
Definitely get someone from traffic engineering to come maybe give a presentation. This questions for me last time also went to traffic engineering this time. So it's kind of, you got to see for the other schools you asked about. Definitely ask about.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I was wondering too, if, since it does say that it doesn't meet or warrants, if we could find out what the criteria actually is that would make it available.
I'll just say that in King George, it's very common for the school resource officer to be in the parking lot at the end of the day, making sure traffic for pickup and the buses are getting out on the Doggen Road. So I don't think it's really super uncommon request. It's what works for us.
Many schools, they actually have both, inside the parking lot area. And then the other person, the resource officer, handling the traffic.
I do see that in the schools, is they're having SRO sometimes out in the parking lot, because you have to. I remember when we went to Massaponax, that it was crazy trying to get in and out of that pickup line, or the drop off line. Which, you definitely do need, like on school property, definitely, having an SRO help to, direct traffic, especially when it comes to, that is something an SRO can be assigned to, but when it comes to like, okay, on the actual roadway, help direct traffic, that's like a separate, like expense that the schools have to make, and we have to pay the sheriff's office, some sort of hourly rate for when they're out there. And I even think policy says that we're not allowed to, because conceptually you're like, okay, you pay them to be out there for like what, an hour? But at least in Spotsylvania County Public Schools, we are not allowed to just charge someone or ask someone to do an hour's worth of labor. So we have to pay them for the full 3 hours, even if they work less than that. We're not allowed to pay them less. And I think too that the traffic flow in like those two particular areas may be a little different. Because I know like Massaponax, for instance, they have a light there to help. And I mean, frankly, I've seen less traffic there than I have at outside of Spotsy High School or outside of Chancellor. So. But these are, my observations and the one shared to me by the school board. So I just wanted to report that.
Okay. And I'd like to thank VDOT for supplying responses that we see up there. All right, any other discussion? All right, then moving on to number 7, the action items for 7A start. And there should be something coming up on the screen. Okay, there's 2 different presentations. This first particular one is concerning us to have a discussion about potentially making an amendment to the bylaws. The background, as you can see up there, says, I was recently at a TAC meeting and there was discussion around the need to update bylaws. As we know, CTAC has done some of this in the past and added parameters for the time limits for our presentations and subsequent discussions. Pertaining to public comment, I've noted some inconsistencies, however, at various committee meetings. The bylaws, information about public comment is right there. All the comment have to be a maximum of 3 minutes. It can be in person, or it can be correspondence, like Eugene just read to us. If it's received 4 hours in advance of the meeting, but if the correspondence is provided earlier for the policy board, they get the opportunity to put that particular correspondence in their meeting packet so they can actually have it in front of them and read it. And there are instances, of course, like we saw tonight, that the actual correspondence might be longer than 3 minutes. And at this point, we don't get to understand what the person attempted to bring to us after that point. Okay, next slide, please.
Actually, real quick point of order, if I may. So the 3-minute rule is, but you as chair as well as a motion by the committee can also make a motion to continue the public comment. So it's not that you always have to stop at 3 minutes. You can always extend the public comment at the committee and the chair's discretion. So as long as you all say, pause, I make a motion to hear the rest of it, you have a second, vote agree, you can continue on that discussion. So that is not a hard limit that's set down that says only 3 minutes and you may not go over that, but it's to, in theory, prevent somebody saying, look at this 400-page document that I'm submitting a public comment and it having an expectation that that would be read out loud. So
Where is that subjectiveness laid out?
So that's the restriction and within the power of the committee to do so. They can always make a.
Under our bylaws or.
It's not formally laid out in the bylaws, but that's just been common practice within the discretion of enabling additional public comment.
That opens you up to, hey, you allowed this other person to go 8-10 minutes. Why can't I go 8-10 minutes? That's why we set the limit.
True. But I'm just saying it's not a hard.
I think we have that. I don't know where it came from that says we have the ability to do that. We have to stick by our bylaws. They have to be consistent.
Well, and he's saying an amendment to the existing, right? That's your suggestion?
So I asked where it is now, and there isn't.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, that does not explicitly state in it, but that is the chair and other committees or this committee can choose to extend public comment if they so wish. But that's at y'all's discretion.
Dante, just 1 second. Now, I wasn't aware of that. Maybe that is something that we should consider adding to our bylaws as well. That the chair has the opportunity with the vote of the members to be able to extend that if possible.
Oh.
Okay, Dante.
So I noticed that, I don't know if that's maybe a Robert's Rules of Order thing, because I know a lot of public committees have Robert's Rules of Order. Like the school board, for instance, doesn't have that, or they didn't have that in policy for the longest time. But how it was justified in the past before they did it was, well, Robert's Rules of Order, the chair has a little bit of discretion. So I don't know if maybe that's where the authority comes from, but I wouldn't be opposed. I do think it is a good idea, like you said, to write it down, because you are absolutely right. I mean, we didn't have a huge crowd tonight, but if we ever do, and we maybe somebody feels a little aggrieved because one side of a particular issue got a bit more time, that could theoretically open us up to some weird First Amendment issues. So.
But if I may, then you misunderstood me. I would be totally against it.
Oh, okay. Well, then, or that.
Consistency.
Too, yeah.
Consistency. We can't be, if this person can speak, this person doesn't.
Mhm. Well, then we can even put that in there. I meant to say that I support clarifying it at the very least, yes.
Okay. Anything on those points, or we can move on to the next slide? Okay, and as we know, additionally, images and slideshows, whether they be video, have been provided as part of in-person. Sometimes they have commentary or accompanying dialogue, sometimes they do not. personally, as a teacher who taught for 44 years, in technology, I would say that generally these are more visual, clear and concise, and also would be more readily available to the public to view later on, since the meetings are recorded, as well in keeping the meeting participants engaged. I have found that there are learners who are more audio and there are more visual, but having a presentation like that, the combination of those two types generally find it to be more impactful. There's nothing in any of the bylaws of our different committees that prohibits these types of presentations being made by members of the public. And public comment of this type has been made at several times at various FAMPO committee meetings. And also it's at county board committee meetings as well. So bottom part is the part I want to point out. At the June 29th policy board meeting, instead or in lieu of making direct verbal comment, a slideshow video that was made available for presentation was disallowed. And at that point, that I was told that that presentation would be made available to all the members, after the meeting, and I was not able to get any kind of information as to whether or not the policy board members actually did receive that information. Okay.
Now, I'm not clear. The video was agreed to that it would be allowed.
In many other instances, except for this particular one instance, it was.
How far in advance was the video submitted?
This particular one was it was, let me put it this way, there have been times that it has kind of in lieu of the public comment been provided. This particular one, I believe, was the original one that was provided before it was disallowed was provided probably around, 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
1 or 2.5 days?
No, hours before.
Oh, for Pete's sakes. Well, I can understand why they would object to that because, they want to review it before they show it on the screen to the public, it might be porn or something like that. And also it takes time to set these things up. So I don't think they're being very generous to allow video at all.
All right, well, that would be inconsistent with past practice.
That's their privilege, I guess. If we want to object to that, that's fine.
What
I really don't see that we got a problem here.
I'm just basically asking for our particulars, if we wind up having someone who provides, we can establish when it needs to be provided.
All right, well.
But if it is, can we have consistency that it is?
So you're going for a rule like, if we submit a video 5 days in advance of the meeting, it should be allowed? Something like that?
Yeah, not necessarily 5 days, but yes.
How much time do you think is reasonable?
Well, let's talk about, for example, if we have a correspondence that's received 4 hours before. All right, that gets read at the meeting.
You're talking about email correspondence?
Yes, like the one that was read to us this evening.
Yeah, that's allowed. Right.
Because it was 4 hours.
4 hours.
Now, it's not part of the agenda packet that like the policy board would receive.
And if they want it on the agenda, they need to submit it earlier.
Right.
Okay. I'm still trying to find what the problem is here.
The inconsistency was the problem, that it had been allowed in the past, but this particular time, for some reason, it was not.
So some people can send a presentation under the deadline and have it accepted? Is that what's been going on?
I'm not sure when other ones have been submitted, but I am familiar with when I have submitted ones that have been.
If you're not sure, I think we need to have more detail because I don't see the problem.
Jason.
I sort of jumping off of Rick a little bit. This seems like a solution in search of a problem that we don't have. I don't think we've ever had a problem with public comments stretching for forever. not, I mean, at least in the 2 years I've been here, I know a lot of you have been here longer than I have, but I don't, I mean, is this something that we're concerned about right now?
I'm just saying that it has been allowed in the past, obviously under the 3-minute, time frame
Sure.
that it's supposed to be. But for this particular time, it was not. So I'm wondering whether or not that needs to be more clearly defined, perhaps in a bylaw or something like that.
I don't think so.
My question would be, first of all, I think anybody who has less than 3 minutes, it needs to be on the agenda. So if there, anything over 3 minutes would be a presentation. I was kind of interested in that letter. And we didn't get to hear all of it. That could be a presentation versus a
Agreed.
comment. So, and then the other thing about, I know that there are new guidelines for making things accessible, including presentations. And so when you talk about a video presentation, I would ask that, what does that mean when it comes to the new guidelines with accessibility? Have a presentation that people with disabilities wouldn't be able to experience. Versus reading a letter, which there's technology geared more towards helping people get that text to speech or whatever tools they need. Visual is a lot harder to transfer into something that's accessible.
Which is one reason that has generally been audio supplied with the whatever the slideshow presentation was. So that there were the two opportunities. So that the dialogue that was part of the video could be,
I'm not familiar enough with the new laws about whether or not that dialogue has to explicitly say what the video is. And I don't know if you guys know more about that, because
We can comment. Right now, video is very challenging to make it accessible because any image that is displayed has to have a image to text description. And even right now, a entity left is trying to figure out how we can keep our videos accessible. Because if we were in a position where we had to make videos accessible right now, chances are we would not be live streaming or making a recorded document of this meeting. It would have to be in person only until we figure out the capacity. Because something like our current platform, uploading it to Zoom and then YouTube, they don't have the capacity to make those accessible in the way that we're required to do it. They can make it more accessible, but not necessarily meeting the new ADA guidelines. And we know that that is a common struggle for a lot of public entities right now. And I would actually say we are still figuring out how to make our documents, just our text documents and our images documents. You kind of felt that a little bit with this agenda because we were trying to test new things and we're using y'all as kind of feedback of, does a Word file work, Word document work? We got some, but it doesn't work for some folks. So we're trying to do that. And you can see that some of our materials are still in PDFs. We will probably have to go back and look at the CTAC bylaws because we explicitly say PDFs. And so it's a question of whether or not we require the materials that are submitted, like this document, although this is mostly text, but if it has images on it, be ADA compliant to make it onto the agenda. So we're still working on that. We have till April to make that. And we are slowly trying to transition us as a learning process to make even our own presentations more accessible. So for video, that would be, we would probably actually, if it had to do today, we would probably just withdraw a lot of materials. But we are still trying to figure out if there's a solution to make those available, because we would rather keep it, particularly for public engagement and for those who can make it accessible, versus having to take stuff down because we don't really know the path forward.
Would this committee be willing to wait until that solution, whatever it may be, is arrived at and then revisit it?
Yeah.
Okay, just by a show of hands, yes or no? Okay.
I didn't know what we voted on.
I had a question.
I would like to recommend that future presentation that the text be black on white. What is that, blue or gray or something?
It's black.
That's black.
Yeah.
I think it is gray, or it's thin or gray.
All right, older font, please.
Okay.
All right. Yes, Duncan.
So, before we, move off of the, public, comment changes we going. So I come from Spotsylvania, and in Spotsylvania, we've had a few individuals who have come to various mission, committee, or otherwise committee meetings, supervisor, school board meetings, and will be irrelevant to what's being discussed. And I don't mean irrelevant in the sense that, they're maybe not well informed on an issue, but irrelevant in the sense that they're like purposefully and deliberately not talking about agenda items or taken away from the meeting. And unfortunately, that's become such an issue in Spotsylvania that like the school board, for instance, had to amend some of their policies regarding the matter. I understand that at least two supervisors have expressed interest in doing something similar. And I don't know if we want to get ahead of the curve there and maybe say, hey, if you're coming to speak to the Citizen Transportation Advisory Committee, like keep it on the topic of transportation or on the agenda or something relevant to the committee instead of coming here to air your grievances about something that's irrelevant to the work that we do here.
Okay, well, yeah, we haven't experienced that here, I don't think, but it
Thank
certainly
goodness,
could
not
happen.
yet.
There was a third slide, but
Oh, I'm
we
sorry.
basically discussed it already. So the top part, that bullet was just requesting our discussion to consider their direction. But we already talked about waiting until the FAMPO staff has accepted that. And then one of the things that I wanted to point out with the bottom one, I think whatever ultimately gets decided regarding just any of the amendments, that it be consistent amongst all of the four different committees. All right, thank you. We can move on to 7B, which is regarding CTAC's involvement at the policy board meetings. Okay, the background for this again, as the CTAC chair or the representative regularly attend policy board meetings representing the Citizens Committee. On occasion, CTAC is called upon to speak or to make presentations. Yolanda Hipsky and I actually attended the June 29th policy board meeting. You may recall that at our last meeting on June 10th, as part of our agenda, we were asked to establish a priority ranking of the 8 smart scale projects. That was 7D in our agenda that day. And we had an excellent lengthy discussion and arrived at our selections. At the policy board and on their agenda as item 8B, CTAC's recorded ranking and a graphic had been provided to them. Okay, if you can move on to the next slide. There was a brief presentation that was done at the 29th meeting. And on the agenda, our item which showed a graphic that you see up there in the upper right-hand corner. However, that part of CTAC's input to that meeting was never discussed. And literally the agenda item, after they had talked about the technical advisory committee's rankings, they kind of skipped right by our input and went right to a vote. Okay, next slide, please. In the meeting minutes for that, which haven't been adopted yet, the arrow is kind of pointing where it is mentioned that CTAC rankings were on the agenda, but it doesn't mention that the discussion or our input was ever even viewed by the committee that evening. At our particular meetings, the second bullet says that the TAC and the policy board summaries are provided to us. And the CTAC members asking that CTAC members, a summary of our meetings possibly be included in the policy board agenda items in the future. And that wouldn't pertain necessarily to any requested presentations we make, but just that we consider having a discussion right now whether or not our part of our particular meeting be potentially adopted by policy. So that we have our public engagement and input provided to them. So that's the discussion that I wanted to basically hear from you guys.
Well, unless things have changed, when I was in your position, we would go to the meeting and we could not vote, but we were members of that committee and we spoke about issues when we wanted to speak about issues. And at this point, they do the TAC thing, they go move on the policy, it would have been rightful for us to say, here is the CTAC position that you asked us to provide you, and then provide it to them. I don't think we need the summary of what we did at our meeting to them. I think just we bring forward, otherwise they won't listen to us. Bring forth the things that are important. Hey, in our last meeting, we talked about this, and I want to bring that to the attention of the policy committee. Or if you forgot to include our input, and here is our input.
So in other words, in the course of the meeting, as they had skipped it, we should have alerted them to that.
Yeah, I mean, you're disappointed they didn't do it. And I say, wait a minute, you asked us for the opinion, and now you're not gonna consider, so I'm gonna present it to you, so you can consider it.
But the chairman of CTAC can speak at the policy committee.
Member.
Can't vote,
The non-voting,
but can speak. And
seat
should
at the table.
on many occasions,
Yes.
honestly.
But where in the agenda is that?
You just speak up.
So in other words, it's part of public.
Some of the policy committee members might not like that. But yeah,
Mhm.
no, and
Oh, just
sitting here,
Just interject that
That can-
whenever the time is necessary.
right? Am I right, David?
Well, ideally, I mean, if it was something we had talked about here and we had enough time, we'd say,
Yeah.
well, I want to make sure that comes up the next meeting. So I'd advise the policy committee, we're going to discuss this and bring it forward, and then they can either have it in the agenda or add it to the agenda when the agenda is approved. We could, make it.
I mean, when I was,
Just to change to the agenda at the beginning of the meeting to include what we want to say. We can't vote on it, but we can say that.
Right.
And then at the appropriate time, say, here is the CTAC position on this particular subject, whatever it is.
yeah, I mean, when I was chairman, you sit over there like a little kid at church, right? But, I mean, you gotta speak up. You just gotta speak up.
Okay.
Some of them might not like to hear it, but they need to hear
Yeah, because Yolanda and I just looked at each other like,
it.
so, okay, so be a little more assertive.
Yeah, here you go.
If I may.
Sure.
Okay. The action of the policy committee was they actually jumped ahead and just went ahead and made a motion to accept basically almost as soon as that slide was. So they were just looking to move on from that item. I mean,
They went with the tax, which
They should.
those guys are a little more technical than us.
yeah, whatever the decision was, is they had heard enough. They made the motion and moved on before. It's not uncommon for the policy committee to just say, we've heard enough, we're ready to move on, and that's their purview. So I did talk with Yolanda beforehand and said, hey, heads up, if you're going to feel like it's critical to move forward, you need to speak up. So
Right.
that's
Okay.
And I agree. This is not the first time that they didn't care about CTAC's opinion. So let's move on.
That was one of the reasons why I figured it out. That's one of the reasons I was
Yeah.
wondering if it was, something that we could ask for them to be a part of the agenda. We could recommend maybe to them and then let them decide.
Nah, just speak up.
Just be a pain in the
Yeah.
butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
sir.
an improvement over one policy meeting I went to years ago when Paul Mildy was chairman. He didn't know what CTAC was.
That's encouraging.
So always. Paul Mildy?
Dante, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so if I understand this clearly, so we spent a good chunk of time deliberating on that. So we spent, I don't know, I thought it may have been at least an hour or two,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we put a lot of work and thought into that. I don't know if anyone else here feels this way, but I feel a little disrespected that they didn't give it a bit more credence and time. And, it's very unfortunate because, one of those people on those committees, is personal board supervisors who does appoint citizens to, help get that input. And then I understand listening to technical experts and all of that, but you know, technocrats are cool and all, but also we have public input and we have citizen input for a reason. And it's very disappointing to hear they did that. And hopefully this is just a one-time thing, but if they continue to do that, and it sounds like they've done it in the past, I would not be opposed to your idea of being like, okay, now you have to give our chairman time to go up there and speak to you and have some time during the meetings, as well as to be able to interject, because that's just grossly unfair to everyone here, in my mind at least.
Just point of clarification. We can't demand, right, that they actually allocate time to you because it's their meeting. And yeah, so it's like, will you please respect us and actually carve out time for us is what the ask would be.
I mean,
Theoretically.
the chairman of CTAC is a member of the
Yeah.
policy committee, just like VDOT and
But they are
bus guy.
well, through an appointment through the Secretary of Transportation, VDOT is a voting member, but the
Right.
other.
But there's other non-voting members.
That's correct.
Who's that? Of course, King George and Caroline, right?
Yes, that would be the prime examples.
Right. Okay. No offense.
They
But
speak at ours, and they are considered peers at the table.
Right.
Yes,
And then
although they don't
the
vote.
bus guy, right? Is he enough?
RTC,
Or he is a voting.
they are a voting member.
Okay,
They have
okay.
2 non-jurisdictional voting members.
Okay. All right.
Hmm.
Okay. But yeah, I mean,
Speak up.
you should be sitting at the table,
No,
but we always sit over here.
they actually usually fill the table,
Yeah, I know. Anyway,
that's for sure.
need a bigger table.
Okay,
Need a bigger boat?
Wait for somebody to stand up and then just take their chair from them.
just grab this from me.
Or just take yours.
On this, the CTAC's recommendations were all presented to the tax. As we spoke about that and the rationales behind it, they received the same presentation. The differences between the 2 lists were actually relatively minor, mostly on the third option, and it was actually the project that we didn't vote for was 7-4 that actually made it onto the third list. So there was a little bit of disagreement even within CTAC. So I don't know the thinking behind the policy committee, but I think at that point in time, they were wanting to move on. The decision they made.
I would believe if I even questioned them, they would be completely unaware that they skipped right over it. They just went very, very quickly. So at any rate, and
Well,
so
it's not just this board that's disrespected either, it's all the citizens who talk to everybody. And so if they find out this happened, then they're gonna think, oh, they don't care what we have to say.
well, so no one watched the recording of this meeting then. Well, not that they do anyway, but at any rate, okay, any other discussion on that before we move on? Okay, we're coming to 7C. This is an action item that we've been voting on to endorse. This is the Complete Streets Draft Plan.
So we're gonna swap positions with Eugene with the condition on water. So bear with me tonight. We're gonna walk through the Complete Streets document. Feel free to jump ahead and whatnot. The core of this document is actually a documentation of existing infrastructure as well as a stitching together of jurisdiction planning documents. And so we are currently in the open public comment and we're requesting feedback similar to what Disability Services provided, as well as if this group or any other individuals want to make comment, please let us know because we can actually incorporate those comments into this document as it is a draft. Real quick, I'm going to jump to the TAC update. So these edits have already been incorporated. There's been different meetings with the TAC and other entities to already address comments. So they asked for a change and update to bus stop amenity inventories, as well as suggested bus stop amenities. So previously it was just an inventory, and then they said, okay, can you go back and actually make a few recommendations? So those were included, as well as talking about kind of early action funding opportunities throughout kind of section 6. So they just asked, go ahead and put more information of kind of the next few approaches into the document, and that some of those comments have already been incorporated into this document here. So again, LEDA previously has kind of presented at various stages for this document as we're building it out. It's primarily an inventory, so it can be an inventory and review of the physical environment, whether or not it will be accidents, actual physical infrastructure, or a review of documents throughout the region. So LEDA has identified and mapped issues and items, existing conditions, very basic descriptive planning work. And what we're doing is memorializing that within this document. So again, we have existing transit facilities, like ped facilities. We've had various amounts of public feedback where we've requested input from the committee. So this was back in, I believe, January. Is definitely winter because it was cold outside. As far as identifying problem areas, and we've started doing kind of a review of the regional plans. And I guess this is where they're asking for more information on conceptual. So that means it might be listed or documented somewhere within a, say, a county or city's plans, or within another regional plan where it might be a line or a page or an idea, but it's at this point in time, there's been no official study, design documents generated, cost estimates, anything. It would be kind of like if a best case conceptual idea would be connecting Stafford and Fredericksburg to the Dahlgren Trail. Like we kind of know it's somewhere along Route 3 or in that area, whether or not it's the rail line or another facility. We have a general conceptual line that we want to connect those 2 points. So a lot of this is just noting that if it is something like the VCR Trail East Extension, we notice it's funded. So it's, again, we're inventorying a lot of the plans and documents throughout the region and trying to notice the status. So we do have a lot of funded items, still a lot of conceptual, just because we developed kind of that wish list and work from there, as well as, labeling these planned shared use streets. So even these might be coming online as development proffers or within a development, but we're at least identifying that there's a need there. So there's a lot of these conceptual items for sidewalks and so forth. So kind of the core of that is a recommended toolbox. We are also including like surveys from a statewide survey that generated auto responses. But the FAMPO, kind of the meat of this document, is that we identified 8 primary corridors that are kind of our priority corridors. Akin to our recommendations to the policy committee in the past, a lot of these corridors are the regional trail network that we've been kind of championing. So it is the north-south Greenway, the East Coast Greenway, VCR connectors. We want to have a future Dahlgren connection, city connectors and courthouse connectors. So we have just identified through plans and other public comment that these are the primary ones that we really want to champion first, and try to promote. And it kind of goes through each one of these items. So for identifying gaps in the structure, as well as crossings that might be needed and or interactions with transit facilities. Kind of gives a basic overview of street typologies, just in case somebody's not familiar with it, so that folks have a better idea if we're saying something, this is what it is. And finally, again, here's our recommendations for like bus stop amenities, so lighting, shelter, seating. It's very basic descriptive work. It's nothing like we're getting out there and designing specific bus stops, but it's just kind of giving an overview of the templates that we want to be following it. So at the very end, we are also having an appendix where we're documenting all of our survey results and public comments, so that while this survey is actually, I think, just barely representative of our jurisdiction and the population, hitting that minimum like few 200 numbers, so this is actually pretty good. We're just denoting this so that we can draw this as we work through other plans and priorities with the region. And then documenting all the public comment that we've received through each one of those. And Lita has gone through and at least highlighted a few items here and there that they thought was kind of pertinent, or she was starting to feel like she was reading a trend, and that where folks started kind of repeating the same little items, so forth. So there's a little bit of staff eyeballs on that. So right now we're in public comment. There's going to be a public hearing at the next policy committee meeting for this document. But if you want to make individualized comments, you can send that to Eugene, myself, Ian, anybody here at FAMPO. Or if you want to do it as a committee, you can come and bring that. We're going to come back for y'all to endorse the final document once we've incorporated any public comment changes that we're receiving. So I'm going to leave it to y'all. You can tell me what to do. So, okay, Rupert and Eugene, can you?
Well, what are desire lines?
Excuse me?
Desire lines?
What are desire lines?
Yes, I've never seen the term used
Okay,
for this document.
that is a more formal way of saying goat paths, or realistically, it's where sidewalk and pedestrian infrastructure doesn't exist. And it's like a grassy shoulder where people who have used it frequently have beaten down the earth to say that there's a informal path or trail there. So you often see them connecting points of interest and neighborhoods because there's no sidewalk infrastructure. But because enough people walk back and forth every single day, it's a bare little strip of earth that
Okay.
doesn't grow any grass or weeds or kudzu or anything else like that. So,
Social trails.
mhm.
How many people do you think understand that term? I'd never heard it before. And to throw it into the document without any explanation or parenthetical or something.
We can add a descriptor. We can go back and review and see if that were adequately explained that.
Even perhaps add one more little, very small photo of it so they get an idea visually.
And then a text description of that photo.
With a link.
So I had a quick question. If you wouldn't mind scrolling back up to
Absolutely.
those two pie charts up here.
Which
The walking one. Yeah, right here.
Mhm.
So with the latter pie chart, how well does the current transportation network accommodate walking to these destinations? When you answer that, all right, I see it has 155 responses. Are those from the people who say they do walk? Or does it include people who don't walk, but it's like, well,
I
you
am
know,
assuming that it is those who
Okay.
walk, because the numbers kind of fit right close to 60%
okay.
response.
All right, I just wanted to double check that because make sure we didn't have people who were, well, you know, I drive all the time, but it looks walkable, you know. Okay, that was
Well, it
fine.
could also be that, you know, it's not walkable, so you do have to drive.
Oh, so yeah, you know what? You're right. So it kind of cuts both ways. So I was curious about.
I'm just looking at the number, and it appears that that's about 60% of 286. So
Okay.
I don't know if that was survey line in the survey. I would actually have to go back and just think how that mechanism was working, but that's.
So perhaps what we could wind up doing is once we review this, since there is the link to it, that if you want to provide public comment regarding that, then you could submit it so that we can have our input.
Well, I just wanted to make sure, because folks are doing this, is that if the committee wants to do it as a committee action, we can do it here if you want to submit public comment as a committee, or you can do it individually. So just because if you do it individually, it won't be of CTAC,
Right.
so and so. So yes.
Well, would we be able to put that together and arrive at public comment and revisit it at next meeting before this is due?
When does the public comment officially close?
It closes at the hearing on the policy.
So next week.
So I don't think we have much of an opportunity right now. So the only way you would be able to do that and get it into Monday would be individually.
If you choose to do so, yes.
Does that make sense?
I mean, we'll still note like Rupert's comment over the desire pass and like
Right.
that came up at this meeting, yes, but we won't take it as CTAC action. Unless you want to do that.
Are you saying you don't feel comfortable endorsing this because the
Well,
public comment
I think
period-
the entire thing is definitely endorsed, but with additions that we might be able to provide to it is what I was just indicating. But, I mean, let's start off with that though. So, someone make a motion that we may endorse this or not?
Endorse the plan as it stands right now.
Yeah,
Oh, right. This is Jason Broughton. I put a motion to endorse this
do we have a
in its
second?
entirety.
I'll second it.
Dante with the second.
Let's say with amendment with Rupert's clarification of desire lines.
Yes.
Oh,
Thank you.
But I'm speaking out of turn, that's yours, but I'm also.
Yeah, go to the principal's office.
Any other
Um,
discussion?
There.
All right, no other discussion, all those in favor, go ahead, sir.
You know, I have a little problem with this. I'm a huge bike fan myself. I like bike trails. But I feel like a lot of the emphasis here is to the suburbs. And I guess, I hope we all agree that the suburbs are a huge mistake, you know, fiscally for the taxpayer, environmentally, and in many other ways. And our goal here should not be encouraging more suburban sprawl, but it should be encouraging communities that are not automobile dependent. Many of these projects are enhancing these automobile dependent communities. I don't like the concept of basically throwing good money after bad. Yeah, we're basically encouraging more bad behavior. Even though bicycling itself is good behavior, and some people say the same thing about transit. That is basically superior to individual vehicles, except you don't want to be subsidizing suburban flow with transit or bicycles any more than you want to be subsidizing them with asphalt. So I'm probably, if I studied this a little bit longer, I might change my impression, but I didn't read every word of this thing. But my impression is it puts a whole lot of money into suburban sprawl. So I'm voting against it.
Dante,
Did we maybe want to ask staff about their assessment of that or their ideas? Because they may have a bit more of a thorough understanding of the document on whether or not it's contributing to suburban sprawl, or if it does more, affect or taking into account his concerns regarding, bicycle paths.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
So the core of this document is actually looking at making recommendations primarily for the urbanized area of Fredericksburg. So now urbanized, so what is a suburban concept? And I would say, yes, Fredericksburg is very much suburban and even the urbanized areas. We're only making recommendations within what the census defines as urbanized. And so that's kind of the core. So not all of this is making recommendations for more rural areas of Stafford or Spotsylvania or Caroline King George. It will include all of the city, but that's the extent. So we're not discussing like the gaps in our network between the urbanized core of Garrisonville and the city. So I would say not necessarily that, say, Rupert's definition for suburban versus urban versus rural. There's very much a color wheel of defining that. We're using a very specific approach for this complete streets plan that is only for the urbanized areas. Some folks might feel that we need to expand it beyond that. Some folks might say we need to, as in Rupert's case, not expand it into like urbanized, but very much suburban areas of the jurisdiction. So we're neutral on that point there. I mean, we can get into a very long conversation of what's urban, suburban, ex-urban, rural, a whole bunch of different gradients, and I'll be happy to talk about that. But at least for this part, we wouldn't even say that we're planning for the suburban areas because we're planning for what the feds would officially designate it as urbanized areas. Although they can be very much suburban for the traditional or average person's concept of suburbia.
I was seeing a lot of connectivity within the conceptual areas, but I was seeing, I mean, Rupert, to your point, and as a fellow lover of two-wheel modes of transportation with no motors, I was seeing a fair bit of that at least be, I mean, this is a plan. This is not funding. This is what we want to do. Right?
It's documentation of existing and
Yeah.
looking at what is kind of planned and memorializing it so that we have a document we can say, hey, we've actually talked about this.
Yeah, and this is the stuff that Lita had been talking to us for like a year
Right.
about, right? So I was seeing a whole lot of connectivity that makes my heart flutter in happy ways. So, Robert, while I will back you all day long, I don't think we need to sprawl out all over the place anymore. I was seeing this more of as a not sprawl out more, but let's connect what sprawl exists presently. At least, I mean, I don't know if anybody else is reading that differently, but that's what I was seeing.
I should clarify, maybe it's not completely because we do identify the priority corridors for referencing that in the plans that definitely do go outside the urban areas, but this project is particularly focused on the urbanized area.
And also, I appreciate bike riding and lack of sprawl, but you know, everybody has different needs, and I think that this covers a lot of needs. Some people can't drive, some people can't bike, and so you know, this provides for mass transit, which I know you're a fan of, so the shelters and stuff like that, so people can take the bus. So I do think it encompasses the needs of a great variety of people. So I'm agree with it.
So,
Okay, any other further discussion? Okay, so we did have a second after to endorse this as it stands right now with Rupert's other suggestion that he had made initially. So all those in favor,
I
all those opposed?
Here,
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, go on to 7D now. This is endorse resolution 2707. Resolution proposing federal amendments that would increase truck size and weight limits and urging Congress to protect local roads, bridges, and public safety.
As I tried to track down where I lost that
It's in the Chrome browser.
Chrome.
Yeah. Chrome browser. Go to PowerPoint presentation. The tab. And click the back arrow.
Back arrow.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. So I want to first off and preface that the materials provided below were not provided or not made by FAMPO staff. And so you can take that as a waiver that we are absolving the accuracy of any of the information presented. However, the policy committee themselves were briefed and they are proposing a resolution to oppose federal legislation or a pilot program that would increase the truck weight or length limits on interstate highway systems or impose larger configurations of trucks in this area. So this was something that the policy committee has requested to develop this resolution, and they are going to be looking to take action on this at their next meeting next week. And so in order that I am going to jump around because the presentation and some of the information is kind of overlapping what they provided. Let's see. So what it's looking at, and there's two folds. There's a pilot program as well as other permanent weight increases in this proposed legislature that is at the federal level. So some of these are, one is a pilot program for a heavier, like traditional 18-wheeler box trucks, which will be increasing the weight of the vehicle or the length of the vehicle depending on their configurations. In addition, there's permanent changes to things like auto carriers that would enable the the auto transport carriers to increase the number of vehicles and or weight that's being loaded onto those vehicles. So in some ways it's a pilot, other ways there are actual permanent changes that aren't a part of the pilot program. But this was the core of the description of what the proposal. So right now, heavier weights, I think we're about in the is it 8,300,000 pounds or 88,000? So it's a moderate increase in weight. But this coalition against bigger trucks has kind of identified and come to the policy committee to speak out and make them aware that the feds are talking about this. It's been previously introduced through other funding and budgeting bills or other federal legislation, but it's always been pulled back. However, it's now back in as a rider to other federal legislation.
Of course it is. John,
Yes.
who does this pipeline to? We vote to do whatever here. Where does this go? I mean,
So the policy committee is going to be basically writing a resolution to Congress to oppose this letter. So they are taking action for that.
okay, so it's going to Congress broadly as opposed to
Yes.
Eugene Benman or whoever. Okay.
Rupert has a question.
I move
It would be going to-
resolution 2707.
Okay,
Say it again.
Rupert is moving, to make
Well, second here.
I second.
Wait, are you seconding to endorse this to oppose it?
yes.
Yes, I'm all over it.
Question. So I read through this real quick for the meeting and, it seems like there's one thing that's missing in this whole argument. And that's the whole formula of F equals MA. We've been raising the speed limits for years. So it's not really just a question of weight.
No, it's mass.
What higher speeds are gonna do in addition to weight? Seems
Yeah.
like that should be part of the argument against.
Hmm.
Additionally, maybe this seems a little niche and less transportation related, but for allowing those, double or triple. For every one of those you do, there's now less of a demand for labor now, and that affects people's livelihoods too. And if you look at, there briefly on the screen was a slide that said, well, who's been lobbying for this? Well,
Can you go back to that, John? I was curious, I saw that too. And I was like,
These are those who oppose it.
Yeah, I agree with
saw that.
Who wants it? And
Yeah,
and why are we even talking about it?
trucking transportation companies, I'm gonna bet. They're able to move more goods.
We're talking about infrastructure or something.
who wants,
I think it was on another.
I did see FedEx and Amazon on.
yeah,
I think
here it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it seems like something larger companies want that have a clear vested interest that doesn't take into account, what may be beneficial for labor, let alone what's safe on our roads and whatever else. So I'm all for opposing this
Same.
powerful legislation.
Let me just make one point that when I first saw this, when the TAC had endorsed the opposition as well. So I'm looking at one cab pulling two trailers right there. Now, I'm assuming that the trucking industry is still going to have the same volume that they're going to use via trucks. So if they don't have the opportunity, for example, to use the two trailers behind one cab, does that mean that they have two cabs for two trailers? And what does that impact on the roads?
Well, I've had over 100 trucks titled on the road on my insurance policy at one point. Tractor trailers, by federal definition, on an interstate highway, can't be over 80,000 pounds currently. In the state of Virginia, we have what they call a 5% sticker. Okay, you can buy, and as long as you don't go on the interstate. If you go on the interstate and they get you can go up to 84,000. You can run around on 208, Route 3, and Route 1. But if you get on the interstate, you go across that scales, they're going to hit you for 4,000 pounds. Not allowed to do it on the interstate. So we're already at 84,000 technically, in the state of Virginia. I know a lot of trucks that are already at 90 and 100,000 pounds. Okay. I had a truck, every time we moved an excavator, we were 140,000 pounds. Yeah, every time. And we had to break the excavators in pieces to get it to 140. Okay. So they're out there already. I can see where FedEx, UPS, Amazon, we call them the wiggle wagons, the two there. I don't think 5 feet's going to. Here's where I worry about it as a road builder. Okay. The guys who are tearing up the roads are the trucks. It ain't the cars. When we build the roads, before we put down the stone and asphalt, we have to do what they call proof roll. You load up a loaded dump truck, you go back and forth, and you actually look at the ground and see if it's moving. Okay. And as a contractor, you're sitting there praying that it doesn't move. So you can put stone down and go on. But as an engineer, you want the thing to be as hard as a brick. Okay. And it doesn't matter whether you put a 12-inch concrete, like a runway, or whether you put 12 inches of stone and 12 inches of asphalt. These guys are what's breaking them down. And it's just bottom line, just boom, 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 all the time. The weight and the constant, just a constant. So unless, and I can tell you there's two different, like I remember we used two different asphalts. If you go to certain intersections and you'll see the lane, you can see where the wheel sticks are. It's the trucks, and it's actually pushing the materials.
Okay.
So what we've done in past years, I watched the quality of asphalt deteriorate over the last 25 years because of the materials we've used. But I think as a fact that we didn't use Venezuelan oil for about 20 years, but that might come back. Anyway, there's two types of asphalt. There's 9.5A and there's 9.5D. 9.5D has a lot thicker asphalt in it, and a lot of times these intersections call for a different asphalt because they know those trucks are gonna the A, it'll just push the A right off the side of the road. So unless the legislation that we're looking at is gonna fix that problem, right?
And it won't.
Then I don't know why we're going with bigger trucks. Other than, do we have enough truck drivers?
I have the answer. Another 300 cubic feet of cargo space per length. Aggregate that out to however many other trucks are on the road, and speaks to exactly what Dante is saying, is we are reducing the amount of trips being taken because you have ostensibly less trucks on the road, or we're pushing more goods out.
Well, yes. That's the fine line. Everything in this room came on a truck.
Yep.
So I don't know where we're going with this.
I'm a consumer too, man. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Dante.
I wanted to also make an incidental comment that I already hate getting stuck behind these guys. I'd hate it even more if I had to get stuck behind three of them, basically. And I can only imagine too, if you had rows of them, it'd just be awful. You would not be able to even get into the fast lane to necessarily try to pass all of them to move over to get to the exit. It'd just be unattainable. So many aspects go into. They must have some great lobbyists though to get it all the way up to, this point.
I understand why they're trying to do it. I worry more about the roads themselves.
One of the main aspects of the presentations that were made to policy board and TAC as part of this was the safety aspects of it, especially like stopping distance of these trucks versus, the longer trucks. So that's obviously a major consideration as
Although I am curious, did anyone in favor try to make any arguments about like carbon impact of, oh, well, we're driving a little bit less trucks, so maybe it's a little bit better for the environment, or did they just not mention that component?
Did not come up as far as I remember.
The closest they got to that would be, it would be a potential mode shift that you might actually see less things moving on rail as a result.
Oh, so you might actually then have more,
Trucks on the road as compared to.
so you don't even get reduced carbon emission.
And rail transit is more efficient.
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
We're at one disadvantage, we don't know what's in home, you know, HR eight.
Right,
332, and, but all they're asking for this is this to be removed from that, but what the policy committee, if I read it right, is down there, it says we want to just have this removed from HR, this increase, so HR 332, whatever the number is. And, we've got a motion in a second.
Yep.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. Excuse me?
I said move the question or whatever the proper motion is.
Yeah, we will. Okay, so all those in favor endorsing the policy boards and in opposition to this.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimous.
Right. You too.
Okay, we're going on to part 8. Staff reports. First, the summarization of the TAC and policy committee meetings.
I will.
Wait, I'm sorry. Didn't you say we were adding an agenda item on number 7?
It was 7A and B, wasn't it?
Those were the two.
Did we cover everything you wanted to cover? I'm sorry.
Yes, everything in those presentations was covered.
Okay.
We'll give a quick truncated just because you're going to get a more specific update later on with the LRTP and CLRP. There was, as well as the TIP amendment too. We are having TIP items coming to public comment, but basically the core of their meeting was talking about actions over the revenue sharing program. So right now that there is a program through with the state where jurisdictions can spend up to about 50% of the funding, but it's a little bit of a competitive action, but they're capped at $5 million. And as you know, that $5 million doesn't get you very far with this. So they're asking for a consideration for the revenue sharing program to up that to 10 million. So the TAC members, jurisdiction staff had a conversation over that. I'll skip over the LRTP item. They also reviewed the legislation concerning bigger truck proposal configurations. And because August 3rd was the smart scale submission deadline, they got we updated everybody that the FAMPO and GWRC list kind of in that prioritization ranking, all 8 projects were submitted. So that's good news. We didn't have anything that did not miss that. And then finally with CMAQ, I'll update that at a later point in time. So the previous policy committee meeting, again, they had the Coalition for Bigger Trucks as kind of one of their highlight items. And you can go ahead and scroll down. There was a administrator's report, covered a couple of items relating to kind of the new FAMPO meeting. Trying to see, sorry. Smart Scale, they approved the applications. This is where we noted that they jumped off, and within the minutes, as Al pointed out, that it was at least identified that your recommendations were made available. So scroll down. There was a resolution for Route 3 to become a corridor of statewide significance. So that has funding and other planning implications that makes it available. Right now, it's kind of unique that it's not, but US 17, US Route 1, 95, those are our corridors of statewide significance. So we're trying to add Route 3. And then we again, directing public comment for our CMAC items. So if you have questions about the policy committee, feel free. Otherwise, I'll remove into the more specific updates that were handled at the meeting. So.
Okay,
Go to the next item. Okay, so I want you to be aware because we're going to be entering in public comment. This is going to be somewhat unique. But on that public comment, we have an item that's adding about $100 million to the previous I-95 Express Lane extension, the one that goes from Russell Road in North Stafford down to its current terminal. This is the project that is essentially completed right now. They are backfilling about $100 million. This was previously in the 2021 to 2024 tip. It was never officially added in the 24 to 27 tip because they were looking at the project being closed out. But apparently, I guess when the counting was all done and over with, they needed to supply another $100 million into the project. But this is all the transurban funding being added. But because it's I-95 and it's a regional corridor, we have to publicly disclose any and all dollars related to the construction of that project. So apparently there was the total cost of the project increased. So this is not the new discussion about the extension of the I-95 express lanes that is now going to be a discussion item on the policy committee. So this is kind of hitting at a unique item. We are not formally adopting the extension of the I-95 express lanes into Spotsylvania at this meeting. This is actually old work being done, but I wanted to make sure that you're completely aware of it, as well as aware that there's discussions going on about the new extension of the express lanes. Yes.
So, if I understand correctly, there was a $100 million accounting error.
I am not aware of the exact reasons why they are now addressing that they are using FY26 funding to backfill any potential cost needed. But it is triggering our action item. So,
because I will just say, and take this with a grain of salt, everyone here. Once again, I'm young and learning. But if someone told me, actually, I need $100 million more from a previous project that's already done, I'd have a few questions about that on, that's a lot of money that was not accounted for that now you need from funds we have now for a project that is basically done. Is it a bunch of?
To my knowledge, there is no taxpayers. This is transurban capital.
Right, okay, that's my question.
Yes. So this is with things with express lanes and dealing with this public-private partnership with them operating. I don't know their processes. The specific UPC number does also factor in land acquisition costs. I do know that that's at least part of some of the $269,000, but the other items for construction, I am not completely aware of, but they are just saying, hey, we spent another $100 million on this project and we need to represent it because it's on a regional significant corridor, even though it's not necessarily federal or any other dollars.
So no taxpayer dollars.
To my knowledge, that this was not used for this project now.
It is still lunacy though, right? Like $100 million,
Yeah.
just for the record, I'm stoked it's not taxpayer dollars, but this is completely asinine.
It's really only 20% though. I mean, things go over budget that much in the last 5 years
Okay,
with the inflation that we had.
that tracks.
Because I've seen things triple 5 years.
Huh.
In the road building side.
If you want, this will probably
Winona?
be a discussion item for the policy committee agenda too. So,
Okay.
But this is what we were afforded on information we got. So it's unique working with.
So why does it come through here? Because it's on I-95?
It's on I-95. It's a regional significant road, and any dollars, whether or not it's federal or not, even if Spotsylvania County decided that it's going to spend, $150 million on the I-95 lane extension, it has to be accounted for and made publicly available. So even if it's not tax dollars, if they just find $100 million buried out in the woods.
If I went out and picked up trash and charged myself $1,000, would that come through here too?
Not necessarily.
Alright.
So you could, because it actually within the tip, there is kind of non-project specific like maintenance funds that go into it. So in a way that $1,000 could be, but it would have to go through VDOT purchasing
I mean,
procurement.
really, this is irrelevant. This is their money.
They're coming back to us and say, hey, we didn't include this in your tip. We need to add $100 million. Wait, it's not in your tip. We need to add it to the tip and note that there's $100 million being added.
Whatever.
This makes them look.
Yeah, we want to make you very clear that this is a very unique item. So when it goes to public comment, you are informed.
Okay.
So I don't know if this is within our purview, but if we could maybe ask whoever's purview it is for determining like private-public partnerships to. Cause I'm a little reluctant as a taxpayer. I understand this isn't any taxpayer dollars, but if we're doing business with someone who's making $100 million accounting errors, well, maybe we should hold them to a higher standard, get a bit more detail.
I don't think it's an accounting error.
Okay.
It's just that they have to disclose that they spent an additional $100 million on this project, whatever was caused the cost escalation.
Listen, I watched them build it. I believe it.
Okay.
Because the bunch that did it, I thought done a crappy job. It took them forever. And time is money.
Yeah.
And I believe it 100%.
Okay. So, all right. Well
Never
then,
underestimate incompetence.
Right.
well,
That's pretty much it.
so then my question becomes, if they're incompetent, why do we have that partnership with them? Can we split that? Can we challenge that? Can we do anything? Cause like, do we not have standards for our like business partners who deal with the public
Not
that?
after the contract's signed.
Okay,
The Commonwealth entered into this contract. We're just a location within it.
Man, come on. I'm gonna educate you on low bids one day.
oh, please.
Day on.
Was it 2,112-ish? So
Okay.
I'll be dead.
I need to.
The, on the, CN is construction, correct? And RW is.
Right away,
Anyway,
right of way.
Okay.
almost had it right. Thank you.
So we're just along for the ride on this one.
Okay,
Cool.
thanks for the heads up.
Yes. Because the full extension is not $100 million. So it's a order of magnitude greater.
That's for sure.
Yes,
This is not the extension though.
this is not the.
This is to.
No, this is whatever was going into the funding and building of the currently built projects.
This is the
Projects can remain or linger before they're closed out and the final accounting is done on.
This is the final number from 610 to 17.
Okay.
The highlights.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
That's a final.
One that they opened back in September, 2022?
There's gold in them, their asphalt.
Okay, moving on to.
And they got a 100-year lease on that one too?
Nine.
One nine.
Yeah. What's the next item?
Member reports.
And
CMAC?
so actually, yeah, I'll get to it. 7:30. This one's also going up to public comment. It's a very large addition to the maintenance facility in Spotsylvania to the Crossroads maintenance item. Scroll down. This is still a many million-dollar project, but it's not quite as so much. But they're building basically a almost near brand new modern facility. And so we're going to have a very big investment into the VRE rail and administration building down there. So this is actually a true project that's coming in and we're expanding it. So, and they did provide a detailed explanation where it's like locker room, safety equipment, the whole 9 yards. So that's coming up for public comment. Okay, next item, CMAC amendments. So on the policy committee, they are making adjustments to a couple of previous projects. You can go ahead and scroll down. So in Stafford County, the Garrisonville Road widening as it's currently labeled and scoped is being removed. However, you'll notice that Garrisonville Road targeted improvements is kind of taking that place because the previous study scoped that it would be general purpose lanes being widened and an additional through lane. And Stafford County is no longer doing that, but it's going to transition the money to more intersection and turning improvements. In addition to that, that makes that project can use a different source of funds, and so they're swapping funds around. The city of Fredericksburg is also using this opportunity to just kind of move a little bit of money between different trail studies and kind of shared use paths that they are working on. So it's just a minor swift because one project is less expensive and one is coming in more expensive, so they're swapping funds. Yes, sir.
Targeted is misspelled.
Oh, good note. I can make that adjustment. Nope.
If we're gonna hit something, I want proper spelling.
Gone through multiple revisions with the jurisdictions. It's a good catch.
Go, Jason.
I will find that. Okay. All right. So where that. Okay. Next up, I'll defer to Eugene for the LRTP first.
All right. Here is the chapter progress for the LRTP 2055. So chapter 2, the goals and objectives are ready for review. Appendix D, the public involvement report is currently in progress. So the goals and objectives, you will remember that I think back in the May CTAC, all of the content has already been adopted, so that is the goals and the objectives. The graphics are subject to change as the LRTP is developed. So we're looking for feedback on what we have added to the goals and objectives chapters. That's going to be the chapter description, the chapter introduction, which provides context for the goals and objectives, and a keyword attached to each of the goals. The public involvement report details 3 public engagement opportunities and outreach attempts that we have done in the development of the LRTP 2055. The introduction has been completed, and so has the survey section. It provides background and lists the outreach activities for each section. Our next steps for the public involvement report are waiting for the completion of the CLRP and the public engagement process. The CLRP section will be completed around October, November, and the LRTP section will be completed around March. So we are looking for feedback on the additions to the goals and objectives chapter. The goals and objectives themselves cannot be meaningfully changed because they've already been adopted. The public involvement report is currently in progress. If you want to take a look at it in its primordial form and give comments on that, then that's completely fine. Both chapters, the drafts of both of the chapters are currently in the CTAC agenda, and you can send the feedback to me. Another part of the public involvement process that we are going through is figuring out a potential name for the LRTP. Right now, we've just been calling it the LRTP 2055. There are plenty of other jurisdictions and MPOs that will call theirs something like the future of Philadelphia 2055, Fredericksburg is awesome 2055. So we have some potential LRTP names right here. If you, this is not where we're supposed to be right now. Let's get that out of here. Perfect. Let's go back to the names actually too. Perfect. All right, so we have a few potential LRTP names. The plan right now is to collect potential names over the next month. And then in September, we are going to start kind of a polling process, see what the public thinks, and the various names, what we should move forward with. And then we are going to finalize a name probably in October. So I'm happy to take suggestions now, positive or negative. If not, feel free to email me again, eugene.lang@gwregion.org. And yeah, that's it for me.
Anybody have some very interesting names they want to throw out there?
Go. It's simple.
Yes, that means no.
Thanks.
I'm not allowed to keep suggesting I can't drive 55. So I've been told to stop making those recommendations, but at least it's on video now.
No Sammy Hagar references?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so I also wanted to give an update on our constrained long range plan. And this is the kind of primary list for where we try to plan out every single possible transportation project and its funding source through 2055. Currently, we are getting submissions from jurisdictions, transit agencies, both Department of Department of Transit and Passenger Rail, DRPT, or Rail and Passenger Public Transport. But I'm getting tired. But so we're currently in it. So you can go to the next slide. We are actually in this process. I gave this, and what we're going to be doing is screening and scoring projects to see if they meet it. They have to identify potential funds. They have to provide cost estimates. Some are very tight cost estimates because they are basically funded and they're going to be shoveled up as automatic qualifiers to be in that list, while other ones are much more speculative and they kind of have to go into a battle royale with other jurisdictions. We can't just take all of Fredericksburg, Stafford's, and Spotsylvania's wish list. We actually have to provide a layer of fiscal constraint. So we are providing a process to that. Next slide. We're looking at regionally significant. Well, the sidewalk in front of Tim's house might be the most important transportation project for Spotsylvania. It might not necessarily be the most important for the region. But we're applying a level of this has to be on a main road, arterial main collector. It has to be kind of servicing all. So my kind of judgment is always is a supervisor in one county interested in a project in another county? If the answer is quietly yes, then it's probably regionally significant. But we're using federal guidelines on that. And we don't have to be as broad because we don't have the air quality constraints. So next. We are also doing modeling runs for a very limited number of projects that are being developed. And they are going towards a safety score because we're trying to predict volumes into the future. We had a deadline for any project that is seeking to be scored on this. It doesn't necessarily mean it's disqualified yet. It just means it can't get scoring if it wasn't submitted by the 31st. So this is a limited number. It's not, modeling every 200 and some projects that say Stafford County has submitted. It is going to be much more limited in scope, and it's not really looking at the transportation congestion items more so as a safety score because we're doing a volume analysis and we have to know that for a safety score. We're doing other items for our volume and connectivity elsewhere. Next slide. So again, we're looking to have this list available probably in September with scoring and ranking. Probably the most interesting thing to this committee is that there have been multiple river crossings at least proposed. So the current, option C as adopted is in that list, as well as CTAC's option C is in that list, as well as a new connection between Tidewater Trail Dixon to Route 17 near the Walmart. Then another one at New Post. The only project as bridge proposed that is not currently on the list is that Stafford proposed a western bridge connecting 3 and 17. However, Spotsylvania has not made that request. So it requires both jurisdictions to make the request before we put that into the pot. Otherwise, we note it. It might go in the needs list, but it doesn't continue on in the constrained list. But we have had about 430 projects submitted already. Give you an idea, right now we have 280 some plus projects. Richmond has 270 projects. Most other regions in Virginia of our size or smaller have much fewer. So like Stanton only has like 40 to 70. Roanoke's in the same boat. So we're actually looking to not be several hundred like Richmond is because we don't have 11 jurisdictions. We're trying to get that number much more down to a reasonable level, as well as the air quality constraint kind of balloon that, as well as very aggressive and optimistic cost estimates where we would be putting in shoulder widening and road shoulder hardening and other like like widening projects in for hundreds of $1,000s when it's really millions. So we're trying to cut that practice out to give a more realistic expectation. But projects have to identify sources of funding or likely sources of funding. So Ian updated, like, for example, the raise grant that FAMPO applied for the river crossing for engineering was not selected. We're still waiting a debrief on federal, but that would be something that, you know, if something gets funding, we make sure that's in this constrained long range plan. We have an idea of what is likely to get funding, like we're looking to try to get funding for I-95 expenses. The I-95 new express line extension has also been submitted into this project. So we now have a very early kind of idea and cost estimate for that. So that one I think is about 6 billion, if I remember correctly. It is a very large project, but we're going to be looking at it. But because that's going to be Transurban's money and not federal tax dollars, that's going to balloon our budget. But because it's tied to that, it's kind of a net neutral project. So we can't just take that money and apply it to Route 3. So that's kind of, it's in on its own if they're going to build it or not, versus we're actually going to be comparing the Route 17 widening versus Route 3 widening, or the funding approvals are needed. So things that are more mature, we're going to have a higher score and more ideas, particularly for near term, when I say near term or midterm, you know, things 10, 15 years out, versus things that are a bit more speculative. It's harder to get points, but they might be pushed out to 2055. We'll start gathering an idea of what can be in that list and not. It's not the end of the world if you make it in or not. We're going to list everything on our needs list and provide that to public comment. And you can always promote projects from the needs list into the CLRP as they find funding. But if you need to find $100 million for a bridge and you have it in the needs list, and if you want to promote that, then you're going to have to remove $100 million worth of projects and push it back down. So it usually requires public comment. It's much now without a air quality modeling constraint, which is a huge issue for federal highways. We can actually move things in and out of the list, versus previously it was you're either in for the next 3 or 4 years or you're out, and there's no in between. Very rarely did you try to touch it previously. That's the reason why our list was ballooned, because you wanted everything in, so you didn't have to go back and redo everything. Now we can be more realistic with our cost estimates and scoping and changing, so that the project's in and out in a much more reasonable fashion as they find money to do so. So that's the CLRP. Pay attention to it, because the TAC is going to be the ones who are going to be recommending, promoting and demoting projects coming in. If you looked at that diagram, they're the ones who we kind of filter out a lot, but then they'll be like, you filtered out this, move it back up to the list. And we're going to be paying attention to that. But to move it back on the list, they have to kick something off. And that's always a very interesting political discussion at times too. So that is that, CLRP updates.
For the public comment that starts on the 21st, not 25th.
Yeah.
Yes, that we, you know, is that our opportunity to view on the list?
On both lists, the constrained list as well as the needs list.
Okay.
So every single project that we've received, even if it's not selected, like even if, you know, Diction put it in, but nobody touched it, scored an absolute dead zero last, you can still make comment on that project. So anything that's submitted, we'll be able to make comment.
Okay, very good. Okay, number 9, member reports. Anything that anyone wants to bring forward? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've got a complaint. The most recent agenda that we received by email is a whole different format than we've ever had before. I received it, everybody else received it as usual. It was very awkward to use. I had to do a lot of clicking on of links to get the same information that I usually would get, you know, very simply and straightforward. And so basically, I would like to suggest that we go back to the usual way of sending the agendas.
I'm not sure what was.
You didn't notice any difference?
I did. I absolutely did. It downloaded weird, and it displayed completely different than it did
It
before.
was a Word document.
Maybe that's what it was. It displayed unlike it normally does, and I haven't changed my phone settings. It took me a minute to realize what it was that I was looking at. Frank?
So this is a part of the ADA compliance that we are working towards for making our documents accessible. So the way that has currently been done is no longer going to be permissible as of April 2027. So we are now working, as you can see, that some of ours are old PDFs. We are slowly going to be working away, and we're trying to figure out how best to make the documents accessible. And this was one of the first agenda items of first meeting material packages where we started doing a hybridized, because not everything's going to be immediately accessible, as well as learning how to best package that, because right now it looks like we might have to move to Microsoft, which has a lot better accessibility features integrated than Adobe does. If Adobe is able to streamline a lot of their processes, which there's issues because it's using vector data versus other things, then maybe we can convert back to Adobe. But until we can figure out how to make our materials accessible, I don't know exactly how. We won't be able to continue as is. It would be either a hard break, or we're kind of using this as a developing towards the accessible documents. And so we understand the headaches, and we're figuring out what is working, because we weren't expecting Word to open up a blank tab and then into the download folder, for example. We're expecting it to open up as a tab, or Microsoft can open it as a tab, but we didn't integrate that. So again, it wants to download as a file, so that you have to use Microsoft 365 or versus a web browser, unless you have that active. So yeah, we're taking the feedback, we appreciate it, and we're trying to figure out how to make it better. But we're going to probably just continue to try to integrate the accessibility features and requirements as we move forward, and we're going to see a lot more. So I understand the frustration, because I'm actually somebody who actually loves PDFs for the simplicity and the ease, but I also know that I have to change now. So yeah.
Would it be possible during this transition that you're trying to work out that you can send them both as a Word document and the PDF?
No, because even if we put it as a PDF, that has to become an accessible document.
Okay.
So that's the kind of killer feature of sorts, that even if we make a intentionally non-accessible document as a PDF for ease of use, we still have to make that accessible. So we're back to Adobe having issues. Yes, Eugene.
It is possible to do this in the transition period, however, because we only need to be completely compliant by April 2027. The reason that we provided only the Word document this time is because, again, we are testing things out, and if we provided both versions, then we wouldn't know how many people were unable to access the Word version of the document.
We can continue to be guinea pigs, I guess, if you would like. Cool. But again, if it can be sent, as you said, possibly, if with full staff approval, yes, that would be wonderful for us. As long as we understand we'll be receiving 2 attachments.
I had a quick question, staff, regarding these accessibility compliance and all that we're having to do. Seems exceptionally burdensome to staff. A lot of the things we're gonna have to do. Like, I see all the pictures we have in our presentations, and having to do description for all of that seems.
Well, it's 508 compliance. You have to do it.
Yeah, so we have to do it. So my question is, do you currently have the staff to do it? Like, is it something that can actually reasonably be done as it stands? And if not, like, what does that look like? Is that even something in the purview of this committee, or is that like someone else has to worry about funding the additional operational costs that come with that?
I was gonna bring this to your attention after the meeting, but so my husband has vision issues, and his one of the medical providers suggested an app called Seeing AI. So if anybody wants to play with that app, you can take a picture and it will give you the description of everything in the picture. It's extremely detailed, doesn't take very long. And if you guys don't have a tool that you're using right now to get a very quick description of a photo, Seeing AI, that's what it's called.
That's
So, those of you that are on different, committees and boards that have to deal with this, it's the only tool I know of, but there might be others.
Well, thank you. That's a great suggestion.
FAMPO staff has, like Eugene can probably speak to it more, has been looking at a lot of different alternatives and resources. Both very expensive ones that were like, oh, this would be great, but we're not going to be able to afford that. And then other ones, and as well as our other requirements being a public agency. So that's always an additional layer and wrinkle. But yeah, we've been looking at a lot of it. We're just, again, as we're transitioning for April, we're just going to be testing to see what works, because we don't want to get into a position where we were even past April, where it looked like it was coming down hard and we got a year extension, where it would have been every single one of our videos on YouTube probably would have been removed because we had no mechanism. And that's a huge resource for those who can view it. But I understand that's a huge burden when we have a map or an image of something. And without that ability to understand what that image is that it is not accessible. So, yes.
That mean, for example, also on that being transition.
I think my biggest concern is like the map graphics that have the dots.
Right.
I don't even know what you can do with them.
Yes, we've been exploring on a lot of different levels, but yes.
I mean, also like, how would we explain something like roads, dotted lines, stuff of that nature, to someone who is vision impaired? Because I would have a very hard time trying to imagine something that I cannot see. Or I guess if you're driving or riding with somebody, maybe you feel kind of the roads, but
There's a great deal of vision loss, so they're not going without that initial understanding of things. It's just over time, something's happened, either gradually or suddenly, they've lost their vision.
okay.
And you can have different people with different vision capacities as well. So it's not necessarily that they can't see or understand very large objects, but being able to see finer details in a PDF on those dots and whatnots and be able to pull accurate information without assistance, that is potentially a big hurdle for some. So we try to provide reasonable accommodations, absolutely, and actually go above and beyond when we can. It's just one of those things where it's like, you have to go ahead and start and say, we're going to make everything accessible. We can't quite pick and choose too much, but we are trying to transition as a office and have the few months of learning time so that it becomes a native practice versus an implemented practice that's applied after an inaccessible document is generated.
Anything else as far as member reports goes? Believe one of the things that was discussed at the TAC meeting is that the Trans-Urban Extension had submitted a NEPA study. I think that was said at the TAC.
I don't think they've submitted a NEPA study.
Okay.
I think they're probably in process of developing one, but again, they are just now even designing the initial scope of the project. So where they are in the process, other than they have submitted basic line item descriptions of, from the termini and connections that we know that it's going to extend from the terminus. Actually, it's going to go into 3 lanes bi-directional up in Prince William. So it's not just going to be reverse changeable flow. It's going to be bi-directional full 3 lanes. And then through Stafford into Spotsylvania, it's going to be bi-directional 2 lanes with additional connections to different roadway networks within it. So you'll be able to get on, I think, south of Massaponax, where the first entrance would probably be located, as well as identifying which roadway networks they're going to tie into. We are at least aware that it's most likely going to result in an additional bridge along the Rappahannock where the current 95 bridges are. So add that to the list of bridges that, concepts that were submitted, but yes, they are looking at it, making it an additional 4 lanes, 2 lanes each way, all the way down to, south of 26. Big project.
Good, I'm glad we pushed that other one down the list. The smart.
The TAC.
Yeah.
Top list.
Yeah, third.
It was in there. It was higher than it was like, I would just put it that way. The other thing I would wonder if, I know that at the other committee meetings, sometimes they wind up receiving like an agenda packet. If we were, for example, receiving a correspondence early enough, obviously not the one that was read today, because you said you got it so late. But if it was received a week in advance, like it is generally for the policy committee, would be able to have access to a document so that we would be able to read the entire thing.
My question would be for correspondence, it's usually directed at the, do you want correspondence to CTAC or do you want correspondence to FAMPO? Because it will always trail the policy committee.
Right,
Because if it's committee, they see it first.
right, because I remember it was in the bylaws or something like that, it said if it was, they have the opportunity when they're sending our correspondence to determine if it's going to all or to a specific committee.
I mean, I'm kind of confused on, so do you want that correspondence that's sent to Campo to be included on the agenda item, but that would be attached through the policy committee minutes or notes? Or do you want that included?
If it could be included, even though it would be a month late in the policy committee notes, I guess that would be acceptable.
Okay, yeah, it's linked. I mean, if you follow the links when it works, you should be able to access it, but we can, if you want correspondence to Campo.
Just
So
so
if
that,
it's to the committee, it's definitely linked in. but-
okay, good. All right. Anybody have anything else? And our next meeting is, or for future agenda item, excuse me, if you have anything that you'd like to add, agenda for the future. All right,
I'll sleep on it.
you'll sleep on it.
Yeah.
All right, get back to us.
Next month.
Okay. 11, we will adjourn until our next meeting on September 9th. Okay.